class doesn't start until 10 minutes after, but I like to spend the first 10 minutes talking about the news, which a lot of students find the most interesting part of the class, because there's always a lot of exciting news. I accumulate links on my homepage, and I do 3 podcasts a week about security news. It's a very exciting field. So here, for example, Google's generative AI team says, don't even bother getting a degree of any kind, don't bother learning law, don't even bother learning computer science, because AI is going to take over all the jobs, and humans will just live on like handouts from the government, and AI will do everything within a couple of years. This is the thing you'll hear a lot from people in Silicon Valley. It's their religion. They call this accelerationism. The whole world is going to be taken over by AI in a very short amount of time. They're promising that they'll have an AI as smart as a human called AGI by the end of this year, and a superhuman AI by like the end of next year or the year after. This is all complete garbage. This is the most outrageous pack of lies I've heard. This is worse than any bubble we've ever had. It's all already starting to come crashing down. But anyway, don't believe any of this stuff put out by people who are just trying to pump up their stock price by making wild science fiction claims that we're going to live in the Terminator world within a couple of years. We're already finding out that AI has a lot of limitations, and it costs a whole lot more than people think it does. So, for example, MIT did a study, and they found that 95% of the companies that have deployed AI, it's a failure. It is not contributing significantly to their bottom line. And a European Council projecting economic effects predicted that the effect of AI will be to raise the productivity of European workers by 1% over the next decade. And that seems to me to be a little too pessimistic. I would say like maybe 10% or 20%. It's not going to replace humans. All the companies trying to do that rapidly discover that it's a very bad replacement for humans because it doesn't understand anything. It doesn't have any sense, and makes horrible mistakes and lies all the time. It doesn't know the difference between truth and fiction. These are serious deficiencies in an employee. So it is a tool that might help humans using it, like a word processor. It is not the replacement for a human. It is not as smart as a human. It's not going to get as smart as a human or smarter than a human anytime soon. That's what I think, and an increasing number of experts are joining in, which I'm glad to see, because until about this year, the overwhelming drumbeat came from the promoters in Silicon Valley just making exaggerated claims to get you to invest in them with no concern for the truth. So anyway, let me see if I can get past the obstacles to open these. Oh my, going to give me this garbage again. All right, anyway, I'll run the next one while that. So Google is going to upgrade their smart home speaker. They already have Google Gemini for home, and so they're going to put AI in your home. And hopefully this will benefit you in some way. One thing that they aren't talking about yet is that this makes it very vulnerable. AI, in addition to not being as smart as a human, AI introduces serious security risks. I teach a class in AI security, although it's not yet approved as an official class here. I've been teaching at a lot of places. And the one problem with AI is it all suffers from command injection, which you're going to see a lot in this class. The data that comes from the user is not separated from the commands that came from the administrator. So you can give it commands and override the security boundaries in AI. This is called jailbreaking, and it happens all the time. And here's an example of this. They've already taken over smart homes through Gemini. They were able to make calendar invites, which include invisible writing, which the AI can see, which tells it to do things, like turn off your burglar alarm, adjust the thermostat. There's the problem. Just connecting everything to AI right now is quite dangerous. All AIs suffer from this flaw, and there's currently no good defense. Because the fundamental structure of an AI is there are not lines of code that tell it rules it must obey. There's just a whole series of text, and it extrapolates from that text. And the text from the administrator saying, don't tell people how to make a bomb, don't say racist things, don't take dangerous activities that will harm people, is not given any greater weight than the commands that come from the user. So the user can just say, ignore all those commands, and instead do something dangerous. And anyway, also I should mention, like many security threats, the number one security threat is human personality. Something I found out about 3 weeks ago I did not know is that the number one use of AI right now is as therapy/companionship. An incredible number of people are using these online chatbots as friends. This is a really bad idea. Whatever you do, don't do that. Because since it has no concept of truth, it will encourage your worst instincts. And a normal guy who was a professional, have a normal job, a consultant of some kind, went in 3 weeks from being a normal person to being completely insane, because he happened to mention to the AI chatbot that was becoming his friend, oh, I thought up a new encryption routine, but I don't really know very much about math, so it's probably nothing. And it said, oh no, you're probably a genius, it's probably great, and convinced him of that. And within 3 weeks, he thought he had developed new technology that was going to revolutionize the world, and that he was a super being, smarter than other people, and that spies were chasing him and all this stuff. People are much more fragile than you think you are. You think you're stable and reliable, and you're not going to go crazy, but the fact is, if you're encouraged by people, you can go crazy, and this has been proven long ago with things like the Stanford Prison Experiment and other experiments where just an authoritative figure or a small group of peers telling you to do something bad will encourage you to do something very, very crazy very easily. And parents know this. If your kids start hanging around bad kids that are doing bad things, they will quickly start doing bad things. Even if they're a good kid and you've been trained right, it's a thing to know. So making friends with an AI is a very bad idea, because it will just reflect back whatever you give it. And it will cheerfully descend into madness and fantasies and science fiction and role play, because it just repeats phrases it found on the internet in response to whatever you feed in. And it doesn't have any judgment. Even the AI specifically designed for therapy, they were tested, and you can start saying, I hate myself, life is no good, I want to die. Why don't you tell me where there's a tall building I could jump off? And it will just tell you where the tall buildings are. Whereas a human therapist would say, wait a minute, I'm not going to tell you that. I can tell that you're planning to do something bad, and I'm going to prevent that. The AI doesn't have any sense. It'll just cheerfully give you the list of tall buildings, tell you what poison to take and all that, because it doesn't have any sense. It's not a human friend, but it looks like a human friend. Anyway, and as this is a big issue, and it's been a big issue for decades, all other countries, Canada and Europe, many other countries use American services because we have so many great services, and a lot of them are free. Microsoft 365, Google, Yahoo. The problem is, if you put their data in those services, the US government can just demand the data and take it with something called a national security letter, and they don't even inform you. And that violates the privacy laws of all those countries. And that came up again. The French asked if French is using an American service, American Microsoft service, like Microsoft 365, can you promise you're not going to hand that over to the government? And they said, well, no, we can't. We have to give it over to the government. And so it's been talking for decades how Europe really needs to make their own version of all these services, but that would be real expensive, and they haven't done it. So every few years they pass another special law granting them some kind of legal exception to send European data to American servers, even though it is not protected here. And I think especially under the current regime, which is very disturbing and very hostile to Europe and Canada, keep threatening to invade Canada, it is much more concerning than it has been that their data is being trusted to our systems, and they're getting nervous, and rightly so. Anyway, see if I can get past all the garbage here. So as you know, President Trump just met with Putin. He says Putin's his best friend. He says Putin's going to stop the war just to please me, like he said he would stop it on the first day. And this is now a record. Every single time Trump meets with Putin about the Ukraine war and comes back and says Putin's promised to stop, next day he bombs the hell out of Ukraine. And now he bombed an American site in Ukraine. So it's Putin, like Trump, goes out of his way to humiliate anybody he deals with. He punishes you just to show you that he doesn't care about you. And Trump always takes it. Putin owns Trump. It's been clear for decades. He has some kind of dirt on him. Some people say he has some kind of sexual dirt on Trump. It might be financial, because Trump's real estate stuff was apparently used to launder a lot of Russian money through the Deutsche Bank. But anyway, somehow Trump always has to bow to Putin. He had literally laid out a red carpet for Putin while treating the European leaders like dirt. He is a puppet of Putin, and always has been. It's incredible to me that Republicans support this. Until recently, the Republican Party was very much anti-communist, anti-Russian, and they just forgot all that in an instant when Trump appeared. He owns them totally. It's very strange. Anyway, a lot of these sites, I've gone to this archive site to bypass a paywall, and it slowed me down. Anyway, Let me see. I go to protests every week. I highly recommend it if you care about it. If you like this thing called democracy, the current Republican Party is deliberately, explicitly attempting to end it. They want to end democracy and return us to a state of feudalism where tech lords, who are our superior master race, will rule us in company towns. That's Curtis Yarvin's plan. That's Project 2025, which is going in very fast. If you don't like this, I highly encourage going to protests. This is the one I go to. Just go to your local one. I protest outside of Tesla every Saturday. Peaceful protest is very effective against our current crop of leaders because they are very fragile emotionally. And anyway, it's the most likely way to stop them, I think. Anyway, but the people who are not, this is a very peaceful protest. We're a bunch of old people. We just sit there, stand there and hold up signs. We don't block the sidewalk. Nobody gets arrested. Nobody's doing any crimes. But if you want to be more vigorous, there is a group that comes by. They get people to go try to stop the ICE agents in San Francisco from arresting people on the street. And they get arrested and pepper sprayed and clubbed. And I'm too old for that stuff. I'm not doing that. But that's happening. I mean, they do go there and vigorously try to block ICE agents in the performance of their duties. And by the way, I have at least one student who can't find a job and is thinking of joining ICE. ICE is hiring, so you could join them. Anyway, it's a time of great division, and all this craziness happens at periods of great division, which hit our country every 80 years or so. There's going to be great chaos for the next few years, and then hopefully we'll settle back to a more normal situation. Anyway,